We are here for the day report on stage 4 of the USA Pro Challenge. We're here at the Moonstone climb, which was the final climb on today's stage and which happened to be one of the most decisive moments of this year's USA Pro Challenge. The riders faced Independence Pass early on out of Aspen, brutal way to start the day. Later on they hit Hoosiers Pass just before descending into Breckenridge, and finally onto this short and sharp and very difficult climb. It's only ranked a Category 3 climb, but the fact that it comes at the end of the race and the fact that it's quite steep, it made the difference. The winner of the stage was Rowan Dennis of BMC, followed by his teammate Brent Bookwater. The guys are having a great race this week. They finished first and second over the line. The riders came in here and a lot of guys would have been coming in thinking, my legs aren't good today, I'm not going to be able to have a go at this one. And you know, that's the difference between sometimes being able to push through the pain and not. The good thing is, as we just saw down the road, there is a party going on. Lots of dressing up, lots of booze, I'd say, lots of dancing, and lots of good times. If you ever come to the USA Pro Challenge, I'd definitely come out and check out this stage. Oh, at 10,000 feet, this is a steep little climb. So back here with Johnny Clark, spoke to him a couple of days ago. Good to catch up with him again. He's riding very well on this tour, currently lying 4th overall, 4th on today's stage as well. Looking very strong. It was an interesting stage today with such a big climb out of Aspen, and then Hoosiers Pass coming towards the finish there meant that the race was always going to be raced a certain way. Can you give us a quick rundown how those different climbs felt today? So,
Independence Pass was probably the hardest I've ever done it in my tour of Colorado's. We raced all the way to the top. The break only went just before the KOM line, so the bunch was down to the front group was down to 15 guys. And then obviously it all comes back together, and then there was some, then you move on to all the intermediate stuff before Hoosier Pass, and there was a lot of fighting in the crosswind, so that zapped the energy as well. And then Hoosier Pass was kind of not too bad because there was a real stiff headwind on it, so you could hide a lot. Got over that. Maybe it's a group of about 40 coming to the last climb, and yeah, I can't remember much from the last climb. I was just going flat out and got over the top, and kind of we regrouped, and Dennis was by himself, and then Brent and the Hincapie guy. And then, yeah, I had a little dig at the end for a sprint and got 4th, so that was good. So I'm pretty happy with the day.
Made all your years of sacrifice. This is a very deserving position for you to be in. So we wish you a bunch of luck for tomorrow. We may catch up with you in the next couple of days as well. Mr. Hendrik Redon, so when did you enter into cycling first?
I entered into cycling in 1979.
So training preparation back in those days, technology's changed a lot in cycling, and especially in the last 5 to 10 years with power meter technology, heart rate before that. Back then, how did you train? What did you use to gauge your efforts?
In a way, I was just riding my bike. So the first few years for sure, because I didn't have a clue what training was, how it was organized or what you should have done. I was just looking television, and I felt good, and when I did more I felt better, so I said, all right, I just go and do a few hours more. When in 1986, so this was after 7 years of cycling, I finally thought, well, maybe it's not a bad idea to have a trainer and a coach, and I got one, and then I started having the first heart rate monitor, and at that time, it was very exceptional to wear that, but indeed it helped me a lot. When I was racing, of course, but there it was more not about all the numbers. It was more about the feeling with the numbers as a guideway. I think that the numbers should be just a guideline to how you do your race. It's still the feeling, the instinct of the rider that will do a lot as well.
So a really simple yes and no question. Do you think the biggest watts always wins the race?
No.
Thanks for your time, Hendrik.
No problem.
Johnny Clark's power file is here in front of us now, and we're going to quickly review the 3 major climbs of the day. The first one, Independence Pass, straight out of Aspen. Really brutal way for the guys to warm up. So this climb they actually did in just under 1 hour. It was 59 minutes and 47 seconds, averaging 370 watts. Interestingly, they were averaging 24.1 kilometres an hour through there, so very strong tailwind up the climb meant that the pack was quite large at the top, but it didn't make it a lot easier because they were still, up at around that 3,600, 3,700 metres of altitude. Here we have Hoosier Pass, and we were talking to Johnny before, and he mentioned that at that point they had quite a stiff headwind coming up there. So it's interesting to see how the wind plays a role in the necessity of the riders to push big watts on these climbs. So the fact that the guys had a headwind going up Hoosier Pass, it meant that the riders on the front, once again, we were talking about this just yesterday, they had to push really hard in order to keep the pace up high, whereas the riders right on their wheels were able to save some energy, staying out of the wind and saving some bullets for the final climb up Moonstone Hill down in Breckenridge. And the final climb, which was only, I believe, 1.6 kilometres, I think, off the top of my head, they climbed that in 4.5 minutes. Johnny in particular climbed that in 4.5 minutes. He averaged 364 watts. So taking into account again that the fact that they're at about 10,000 feet of altitude, he's losing about 10 to 12% of his physiological capacities up here. Finally, right down the bottom here, we see his sprint. We won't take too close of a look at that, but he had a great finish, managed to roll in fourth on the stage, winning the bunch sprint behind the three riders in front of him. So now we are over on the Pioneer Cyclosphere side, looking at Johnny's file from today's Stage 4 of the USA Pro Challenge. It's clear to see here the altitudes that they had to race up. These are the climbs, the elevation that they had to gain, the descents. The purple line here is his pedaling efficiency. You can see up Independence Pass, his efficiency is quite high at around 60 to 70%. Faded a little bit in the middle, but that was more due to the crosswinds and the fact that it was a little bit start-stop in the peloton. Once again, he was well on top of his pedaling coming into the final. One of the important things to remember, especially when we're looking at race files, is that there's a lot for us to learn as opposed to instruct. So interestingly here, we can actually look at throughout the day the number of times he was standing. So I'm not sure if you can see that clearly here, but we have these vertical green lines, and these are the moments that Johnny was out of the seat and standing during the race. An important thing to note here is that at times standing is a necessary thing to do to produce big powers and accelerate out of a corner, stay on that wheel, stay out of the wind, stay conservative. But standing for excessive periods of time is actually pretty inefficient, and you don't want to be doing that because you'll be burning extra energy. Very interestingly to see here, we have his Zone 4 powers, Zone 5 powers, Zone 6 powers, Zone 7 powers, and how the fact that when he's pushing harder, his efficiency is actually going higher through these ranges. So the lower the watts, the lower the efficiency, but when he's having to push higher watts, he's really getting good power application to the pedals. So high altitudes means fast racing, with the fact that the air density up here is a lot lower than what it is down at sea level. These guys are absolutely flying because they just simply have less resistance in the air. We can see here Johnny actually hit a top speed today of 91.9 kilometers an hour, which equates to about 57 miles per hour. So really roaring fast through that section. So that's a wrap for Stage 4 of the USA Pro Challenge. Join us tomorrow for the Breckenridge time trial, raced over a distance of 13.5 kilometres.